And pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16th, 2021 order extending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law C-30A, subsection 18, and an extension to allow for remote participation until July 15th, 2022. The May 23rd, 2022 Select Board meeting will be conducted remotely via participation from the board. We're going to start with the chair's update, and I get the honor as the incoming chair to recognize our outgoing chair, Michael Walsh. Michael has provided tremendous leadership and guidance to the board for the past year in a variety of capacities, but not limited to serving on additional boards and committees such as the Aid to the Elderly and Infirm, the Norfolk County Advisory Board, the Norfolk County Selectmen's Association, the School Building Committee, and the John Cronin Public Service Award Committee. We have much to thank Michael for over the past year. The ongoing response to the pandemic. We reopened the buildings on June 1st of last year, and the Senior Center was reopened on July 12th. We extended temporary outdoor seating until April 1, 2022 for Kiara, BB's, and Toast Office, and subsequently was extended again until April 1 of 2023. We were able to approve a transfer of $70,000 to the Aid to the Elderly account to supplement donated funds for 53 approved applicants. And the Wentworth Hall was opened on February 14th. We signed a joint statement for the Human Rights Task Force Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the town. And we introduced a new community newsletter called the Westwood Word. From a public safety standpoint, we accepted an $85,000 grant to the firefighters for some self-contained breathing apparatus that was desperately needed. We also accepted a $58,000 community compact cabinet. And that was awarded to the police department to modernize all the in-vehicle computer equipment. We also became a Purple Heart town last August, on August 7th. And we added a 5th voting district. And then obviously we had the sidewalk improvements with Todd's group and all of the work that was done under Michael's chairmanship on Hartford Street, High Rock Street, Pond Street, etc. We also got a complete street grants for $357,000 to construct new sidewalks from Booth Drive to Canton Street. We had the Hanlon and Deerfield School project that was approved at town meeting in the special town meeting October of 2021 and the special town election. And we approved an iSteam pilot project for the rec department. There was a $10,000 grant to be used to incorporate inclusivity to the recreation department programming to provide neurodiverse children with social inclusion skills while engaging in science, technology, engineering, art, and math activities. And during Michael's chairmanship, as we approved at the most recent town meeting, we also were able to complete the negotiations for the acquisition of the American Legion Hall building. So Michael, as the incoming chair, I'd like to thank you for all that you've done for the past year.
Thank you, Rob. It's always a pleasure to serve as the chair, and I do appreciate it. And I'm glad we were able to get a lot done despite the pandemic, and that our town keeps moving forward in the best possible way for the residents. So thank you very much. It's always my pleasure, and hopefully maybe I get to do it again.
Well, we hope so. So now let's go to some staff promotions that we've got. I believe Chief Deckers and Assistant Chief Operations Steve Lund are here. Is that true, Tish?
Yes.
All right. Chief, would you like to speak about Stephen's promotion, or would you like
Sure.
me to go through the highlights?
No, I can speak to Steve's promotion, and one of the greatest benefits that I have as chief of the Westwood Fire Department is the fact that I have the ability to work with so many great rock stars. When we looked at this position in making a new assistant chief of operations, we were really hoping to find an internal candidate. And the greatest thing is we had 4 great internal candidates. And through the process, Steve came out number one in the process and was promoted to Assistant Chief of Operations. Steve has many years in the fire service, and I think we're going to be able to do great things together and move the department forward. We've been moving forward, and now with his experience, knowledge, skills, and ability, we're going to go to some great places. If you wanted to read the prepared statement that you have in front of us, Chairperson Gotti, that would be awesome, because it gives us a lot more history about Steve. And then I know Steve's on the call too, if you had any questions.
Sure thing. Well, Steve was hired by the town as a civilian dispatcher at the police department back in August of '95. And he started a combined police and fire communications center, and he was one of the first several dispatchers who worked in this during this transition. On April 5th, 1998, he was appointed as a firefighter EMT. In 2002, he began working with the fire department's alarm division, which is responsible for installing and maintaining the master box alarm system. On December 16th, 2004, he was promoted to the rank of lieutenant. He was a shift commander in charge of 6 firefighters. 2 years later, in May of 2006, he was appointed as a member of the state's hazardous materials response team, where he responded to incidents in District 1 response area, along with firefighters from other departments. He has assumed a leadership position on the state's hazardous materials response team and is now responsible for all the equipment assigned to District 1. On August 31st, 2007, the department created the rank of captain, and Stephen was promoted to this new leadership position. As captain, he oversaw personnel at Station 1 as well as personnel at Station 2. And now here on May 8th, 2022, Stephen was appointed to the department's first Assistant Chief of Operations. So Stephen, on behalf of my colleagues, I would like to congratulate you on a promotion well-deserved.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I look forward to moving forward with this position. Sorry if I sound a little funny. I'm home with COVID this week, so I apologize for that. But thank you. I appreciate the kind words.
No reason to apologize for that. Thank you for being able to join us here. Feel better soon.
Thank you.
Can you recover, Steve?
Thank you,
Thanks.
Stephen. I know your hard
Thank you
work
very
has paid
much.
off, Steve, so thank you very much from the town.
Thank you.
And Tish, is Chief Silva here as well?
I do not see him. I just sent him a text, but I do not see him on. But we have Kindia and we also have Mark on.
Okay.
So if you want to.
Well, we have Sergeant Mark Hedberg and Detective Kindia Roman who are joining us. Mark Hedberg was recently promoted to sergeant. He was hired in 2015, and he quickly established himself as a productive professional and high-performing officer. He received the Cobweb, which is it's a lot better than it sounds. It's the Cops on Bicycles with Educations for Bicyclists. He received that training and worked as a bicycle officer, field training officer, and helped with the town's award-winning Police Explorer post as an assistant post advisor. He became one of the department's less lethal force instructors and participated in department-wide training with the BOLA RAP, which is Remote Non-Lethal Restraint Device. In March of 2021, he earned the assignment of detective, replacing Detective Paul Toland, who had retired. He served as the prosecutor and evidence officer and assisted with investigations in his detective role, and he played an important part in the department's recent accreditation certification assessment. He took a leadership role in managing our armory and equipment, streamlining our inventory management system, and professionalizing our records for equipment management. And he became the primary firearms licensing officer in charge of processing, maintaining, and preparing all firearm licenses for the chief's issue, as well as being responsible for processing suspensions and revocations and preparing case files for appeal. So please join me in the select board in congratulating Sergeant Mark Hedberg on his promotion to sergeant and wish him well as our newest in the command staff. Congratulations, Mark. And
Thank you. I appreciate it. Once again, happy to be here. I appreciate everything the department's done for me. A lot of experience. I have nothing but good things to say about the department. All the opportunities that have been afforded to me. Excited to get started in my new role, and excited to continue advancing within the department. Just a side note, you did mention the Explorer post. We actually did have the Explorer competition this Saturday from departments around Massachusetts, And the Westwood Police Explorer post did take #1 for a 4th year in a row at that competition as well. So
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Congratulations on that.
Excellent.
you.
Congratulations, Mark.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Also joining us is Detective Kindia Roman. Kindia was recently promoted to detective and court prosecutor. Kindia started her law enforcement career working for the City Police Department in Titusville, Florida. She returned home to Massachusetts, where she worked in Martha's Vineyard as a patrol officer, a detective, court prosecutor, sexual assault investigator, and sergeant. Kindia was looking to get back to the mainland, so she took a job as campus police officer at Simmons College in Boston. Kindia further honed her investigative, interpersonal, and law enforcement skills in yet another environment where she interacted with a wider range of students, educators, administrators, and then community members from both inside and outside the school community. Kindia is bilingual, speaking both English and Spanish. Before her career in law enforcement, she also worked as a paralegal while furthering her education by obtaining her law degree, her Juris Doctor. And as a historical milestone, Kindia is only the second female detective in Westwood Police Department history. First was Sue Flaherty some 20 years ago, who later became our first female supervisor. And she is the first detective of color in the history of the department as well. So please welcome me in joining, again, congratulating Kindia on her well-deserved promotion and her historical accomplishment. Congratulations, Detective Roman.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Very excited to get started as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for being here with us.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Detective.
Congratulations, Kindia. Yes, yes. You're such a great job, and it's great to have bilingual. That's also very helpful. I know.
Oh, I've actually done quite a bit of translating so far, so definitely useful.
Excellent.
Thank
Well,
you
welcome.
both.
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
so we do have Lieutenant Vinci who's on, and I know that Chief Silva is joining in. He had some technical difficulties, but he's with us now, just to let
Well,
you
we would certainly love to hear from either or both of them, in laying some accolades on both Mark and Kindia.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Logging in here through my iPhone because my desktop was not cooperating. So thank you for putting up with the technical difficulties. So in order of rank, Sergeant Hedberg is someone who the board or some members of the board have had the chance to meet. He was one of our hires when the department came out of civil service. And he was what we call a self-sponsor to the police academy. So he went through our hiring process. As usual, we had so many good candidates and he was the runner-up. And I made an opportunity available to him where I said, I will sign you up for training for the police academy. We don't have a paid position for you, but we could have one during the 6-month period when you're in training. And if that's something that you're able to do, you're the next person that we'd like to select. That's up to you. And being the eager, industrious person that he has always been, he took me up on that offer, and about halfway through the police academy, a vacancy became available as we thought that might happen. And, you know, from the time when he was in the academy and bringing the cruiser back and forth from training and washing it and putting Armor All on the tires to being diligent with his police work, working for us as a field training officer, working for us in our armory, helping streamlining all our equipment and ammunition and the many things that we use in the police department, to working with our newer officers through their development period of time as they're onboarding to the department. And then as our court prosecutor, the liaison to district court and superior court for all the cases that come in and through the police department and follow-up investigations. While working as a detective, Mark is someone who has always put in the extra effort. And this was no exception. He came out on top of our assessment process for sergeant against some extremely tough competition. And we were just delighted to be able to promote him to sergeant. So he's training Detective Roman, who I'll talk about in a moment, but he's transitioning, passing the baton, if you will, over to her. And then he'll be cycling into uniform patrol. So I couldn't be any happier and any more proud of Mark for all his great accomplishments and his professional growth that he's made during the time here with the town. And I know he's going to do a great job for us.
Congratulations again, Mark. Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, my pleasure, Sarge. And then on to Kindia Roman. You know, I say this and so many times because it's true. You know, we're not the largest police agency in Massachusetts, and or mid-size. Most police departments are under 20 officers. And so we're about 1.5 times bigger than that on a national level. The so-called big departments or major cities are the anomaly. But in terms of the quality of candidates that we have in our department, they're very, very impressive with their background, their education, and their training. And Kindia is no exception. In fact, in terms of a curriculum vitae, if you will, Kindia is about as qualified as an applicant to apply for any police position that she's ever set her mind to, as I've ever seen. Kindia has her Juris Doctor. She has her law degree. She worked as a paralegal. I thought she wanted to be an attorney. But as I've told so many people, police work a lot of times feels more like a vocation, like a calling. And she was called to the profession. And so she went down to Florida and took a job in a larger city department in Titusville, Florida, about 100 officers, a very active department. So she investigated all manner of cases from domestic dispute to homicide. And while, thank God, we don't have very many homicides in Westwood, as we know, as we've seen, things can happen everywhere. And so it's such a benefit to have somebody who has training on the job rather than someone who requires on the job training. So Kindia then waited for an opportunity to come back home to work in Massachusetts, and she took a job on Martha's Vineyard, a smaller agency, much like us, but also they have a larger summertime population. We have a larger daytime business population, as the board knows. And she got a great deal of experience working as a patrol officer, working as a detective, a sexual assault investigator, and even a supervisor as a sergeant out there. But she wanted to come back to the mainland. She enjoyed her time there, learning the aspects of the job in a smaller agency here in Massachusetts. And at the time, the only thing available for her to work in was a campus environment. And again, those are fiercely competitive jobs. It's a difficult, challenging environment, especially Kindia worked at Simmons. So right in the city, so it's a robust population, academic, social, otherwise, commuters, people in and through the city. So there's a lot of moving parts there, and it requires a great attention to detail and ability to multitask. And so that's another segment of the population that Kindia got experience with. And then we were fortunate enough to have Kindia apply with us. At the time she applied, she was the #1 candidate in our application process of, I think at the time it was somewhere in and around 200 applicants, again, with some very qualified people. So Kindia brought all those skills to bear, her civilian education and training. She's bilingual, bicultural, Spanish, and she came to work for us. And she did terrific work, as you might expect, with all those qualifications and training. Put in to be a detective to succeed Detective Hedberg as our court prosecutor. And, again, I don't think there's ever been more of a round peg and a round hole than Kindia in that role. We're delighted to have her in that position. It's at a personal level. Kindia also represents a strong effort that I've been trying to do, that we've been trying to do here in Westwood since I came in 2013, which was organically diversify our police department in a number of areas, culturally, linguistically, gender, and so forth. And so Kindia, as a historical perspective, is our first detective of color in town. And she's just, absolutely a top-notch candidate, just like Sergeant Hedberg was for the process. So very excited to introduce Kindia and Sergeant Hedberg to the board. And so I just want to wish her my congratulations officially as we welcome her into the community.
Thank you, Chief. Those are very kind words. Appreciate it.
And we are lucky to have two such eager self-starters, right, who have gone after it the way the two of you have. So thank you both and congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to come before the community and yourself, introduce a couple of the members of an entire staff that I'm very proud of.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
you.
Okay.
Mark and Kindia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is an acceptance of a grant for youth and family services. Chris, is Danielle in attendance?
Well, first we have Memorial Day.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tish.
That's okay. Memorial Day is
Over that
first,
one.
and Michelle Miller's on
Great.
Memorial Day.
Good evening to the board and everybody else tuning in. The last few years, as most people know, the Memorial Day observance has been very different thanks to COVID. But this year it's going to look a lot like it used to. not 100%. We'll get there, but it'll be really terrific. That's the bottom line. So the last 2 years, we've not been able to have a parade, and we will have a parade this year, which I think the entire community will really enjoy that. So we are hoping that all 3 of you can march in the parade. And as tradition has, as part of the ceremony itself, Thurston picks an 8th grader to recite the Gettysburg Address. And that 8th grader this year is Max O'Shea. And we've invited him to march in the parade. So he's usually with the select board. And it'll really be a great opportunity for him. And for you guys to meet him. He's a really great kid. We've got a number of our usual participants in the parade. The one thing of notice that everybody's gonna glam onto is that we will not have the middle school, high school band. It's not that they didn't want to be here, but as most of you know, they've missed a large chunk of school the last 2 years. And a lot of teaching is more difficult. Certainly teaching music as a band is really difficult. And the band director felt like it was not the right thing to do to put them in a position where they really weren't as comfortable and as ready as they needed to be. So we'll miss them a lot, but we'll welcome them back next year. So they're really focused on jumping in next year. So we will start the parade at 10 o'clock. So we'll ask most participants to be behind Town Hall at 9. And we will start the parade with the national anthem and raising and lowering of the flag in front of Town Hall. That's the traditional beginning of the parade. March our way down High Street. Thank you to the police and fire that are making that a safe place to march. And it'll roll right into the new cemetery. That will all be decorated by then. And assuming a lot of us don't hang out in cemeteries, it'll look beautiful. It'll really, really look beautiful. A lot of volunteers from across the town, different groups, and our DPW just make that a gorgeous place to be, which is wonderful because it's not just families of military members that visit that weekend, it's all families tend to visit that weekend. So it's gorgeous. Once we get to the cemetery, we'll plan on the ceremony starting at about 11. We sort of play that by ear when the parade's done. Chris McEwen has been the MC for this for a number of years and does a terrific job. So he's going to do that again. We've got a little bit different in terms of folks participating. I think most folks are where we select a Grand Marshal every year. That's Mr. Jim Martin, who's very active in numerous places in the community, but especially with the American Legion these days. He and his wife will be in the parade, and quite a few of his family members will be able to make the ceremony, which they're pretty excited about. For a lot of you, you've probably met Mrs. Christine Devlin, who is our Gold Star mother. She will be driving in the parade this year and is very excited to participate once again. She will be on the grandstand, so to speak, during the ceremony and will definitely be recognized. Some of you guys have heard me say this before. For most people, Memorial Day is once a year. For her, it's every day. So this is really important for her. And she is really honored to be able to represent Gold Star mothers. And she's not able to travel as much these days. So participating with us will be particularly special for her. So we'll have different, different select board members. You guys will be there. We may have Congressman Lynch, Senator Rush, and maybe Representative McMurtry. Still waiting on a couple answers from them. We'll make it work no matter who's able to make it and who's not. So the event will be filmed. We'll be able to watch it online after. You'll be able to lots of pictures. And it looks right now like it's going to be nice weather, a tad warm, but it'll be nice weather. Last year was tough weather. So either way, our committee has a phone call meeting on Sunday to make a weather assessment. If we're going to go as normal, there'll be a robocall to the town to remind folks that of the parade and the ceremony. And we have a rain plan that'll go to the high school So any questions?
None from
You're on
me.
mute. Go ahead.
I have a question, Michelle. First of all, thank you for all your hard work on this and to the Memorial Day committee members. With respect to possible rain, if we are going to be in the high school, do we expect there may be any guidance from the Board of Health with respect to COVID precautions?
So Board of Health is looped into this committee sort of on as needed. And as a committee talked about, we would go with the standard school rules, which right now masks are optional. There's no limit per se to having people inside that auditorium. So we had that discussion as a committee and decided that that's their building. We'll go with whatever their rules are in place right now.
Great,
And
thank you.
Marianne, I did have a conversation with Jared earlier today. He supported what the committee has already discussed. He did recommend that we would have to have some face coverings on site in the event any attendees would like a face covering. So we will certainly do that.
That's great, thank you.
And for, if that decision is made on Sunday morning, will you be reaching out to attendees that are, just to let them know that we will be inside, to give them that option?
We have a phone call set up for 5 o'clock on Sunday. And so we'll notify any of the attendees, participants of the change, if there is one. And then there'll be a different robocall that goes out to the town saying, we've moved the ceremony. So, but keep those fingers crossed, because right now it looks like good weather, and that's sort of what we need.
Yes, we do. Look forward to getting back to, somewhat normal this year.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for all the hard work that goes into planning that. I know that takes a lot of effort and a lot of coordination.
There's certainly been a lot of people involved. Michelle and Chris McEwen have done a great job really helping us and leading that effort. So thank you to both of them.
Anything else?
I would just say that, if you've never been there, you should try to make an appearance. It really is a great ceremony. It's the one thing that we do in town every year that's fantastic. So please try to come out and join us.
Thank you, Michael. I would agree with that sentiment wholeheartedly. Okay, so we now move on to a Youth and Family Services grant to accept. And I believe I did see Danielle in the wings there. So I'm going to let you, Danielle, tell us a little bit about this.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. So Westwood Youth and Family Services back in March applied for what is called a large multi-year grant through Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Needham. And we were awarded that grant, or the town was awarded that grant. And so that looks like $18,000 over 3 years, or $6,000 per year, toward what we applied for. And what it would be put towards is the town's interface referral service subscription. So the William James College Interface Referral Service, if anyone isn't aware, is a subscription service that matches residents of any age with mental health providers. That could be something like a psychological evaluation. It could be something like a medication evaluation. It could be ongoing therapy that's over the phone, over video, or in person for, again, people of all ages. And that is free to all Westwood residents. And the subscription is paid for in a 50-50 split between the town and the schools. And on the school side, it's paid for out of their student services budget. And on the town side, our half comes from both the general town budget, and then also from the Youth and Family Services Department expense budget, the Health Department expense budget, the Council on Aging. So all of those departments contribute towards the cost, and that cost has remained relatively the same. It has gone from about $12,000 annually to about $13,000 annually since 2015. But we understand that they're going to be increasing their prices, not just for us, but for the many communities that they serve as of next fiscal year. And they're expecting our payment or our contract to go from $13,000 annually to $20,000 annually. So we're really happy to be able to apply for this grant and then to receive it that will cover $6,000 up to $7,000 increase for at least the next 3 years. And we're really happy that we got the award, and we're really pleased to be partnering with Beth Israel Deaconess in Needham. And we just wanted to bring it to your attention, see if you had any questions, and then respectfully request the formal acceptance of the grant money.
Well, before we go on to the actual scheduled action there, I want to thank you for all the work that Youth and Family Services does on behalf of the community. And I know that you've seen some real increased demand through the pandemic.
Yes, we certainly have. I appreciate that. Thank you, Robert.
And with that, do either Michael or Marianne, do you have any questions, comments?
No,
Just want to go ahead, Mike.
no, go ahead, Marianne, ladies.
I just wanted to second Rob's comment. Thank you for the incredible work you've been doing, given the demand, and congratulations on your work on getting this grant.
Thank you, Marianne.
And I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into grants, but I think the easiest thing we do as the select board member is accept them. So thank you for all your hard work. If it saves the town money, we're more than happy to take it. So with that, I will move that the select board to accept the Community Health Collaborative Beth Israel Deaconess Needham grant of $18,000 as awarded to Youth and Family Services.
I second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
And I vote aye.
and I vote aye as well. It's unanimous and very appropriate timing, as May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so Danielle, congratulations and thank you again.
Thanks so much, everyone, and thanks for your ongoing support.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go next to the next thing on our agenda here is the Canton Interchange. This is the proposed project route 9395 letter of support. So Chris, do you want to give us a little bit of a background on this? I know that we have, I believe we have Tom O'Rourke of Neponset River Regional Chamber joining as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm certainly happy to provide that background. I may be butchering what Tom would say, so I would suggest that if the board's okay to turn it over to Tom, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have afterwards.
Sounds good. Mr. O'Rourke, would you like to take us through?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to see everybody. And so I hope you've seen the letter, and so you've got a sense of what we're talking about here. But this is actually, I should say, I'm the president of the Neponset River Regional Chamber, but I also represent this region on the Boston MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So, and I've done that for many, many years. So what the MPO does is determine how to spend federal funds on local and regional transportation infrastructure projects. So this is a project that the Chamber's been working on for decades, that the communities in the area have been working on for decades. Mike Gillette was probably the biggest proponent of this over the years while he was here. And we worked with him closely to advocate for this project. And it's had its ups and downs. It did get funded in 2013 when the gas tax was passed. And it was put into the TIP, which is the state's transportation plan. And then the gas tax got repealed and the project had no funding and it fell off the TIP and it looked like it was dead. And so we've been waiting for another opportunity to try to get the project moving again. And with the recent infrastructure bill that was passed, excuse me, there's a lot of funds out there to fund these projects. And we figured we should start advocating for this project to move forward once again with that funding. So what we've done is we've reached out to the local delegation of legislators, and we've reached out to the communities that are impacted, in this case, Canton, Dedham, Norwood, Westwood, and Walpole for support. And that's really what we're looking for today is your support in the form of a letter to the secretary, to MassDOT secretary supporting the project. We do have letters from the delegation, the entire delegation, and from most of the communities. We're still working on a couple of others, but we do expect to get those as everyone has been supportive of this project for so long. But I'm happy to answer any specific questions about what the project is or the process or anything like that. But essentially, that's why I'm here, is to ask for that support.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for all the leadership that you've demonstrated on this over the years. I don't think there's anybody who, has gone into Boston who doesn't know exactly what you're talking about in terms of that interchange and coming up and the big hairpin turn and all of that. And it's actually unusual for a project of that magnitude to also be returning open space back to the communities as well. So I will look to my colleagues. Do either of you have any questions with regard to the letter that Tom has provided us?
I don't have any questions with the letter, but Tom, any idea once it gets started, how long it would take? Are we talking about 10 years for something like this to develop? And I know
Good.
I'm not going to hold you to it.
It's a great question, and I like your optimism. It would certainly be a few years project. It has been broken up into 3 pieces, and 2 of them, one piece is done, which was originally done as part of the University Station project. The second piece is being done now, which is the ramps off 95 onto Dedham Street in Canton. That's phase 2, but phase 3 obviously is the biggest piece, and that's the interchange itself. So that would be a multi-year project for sure. And then the other challenge we're facing is with all these projects getting funded, hopefully, we've got a shortage of labor and we've got a shortage of supply chain. So how it's all going to fit together is anyone's guess, but we just want to see it get funded.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for all the hard work on it. I know it's been out there for a long time.
Tom, understanding that this is a project that would be funded completely by federal and state funds, not local funds, what is the current estimated cost of the project?
The most recent estimate, which is a few years old now, was about 250 million. It's a big project.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your work on this.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, you ready?
I am.
Okay, I move that the select board approve the letter of support as written for the Canton Interchange project and for electronic signatures of the select board to be affixed to the letter. Also, for the letter to be sent to Secretary Tesler at Mass DOT.
Second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you again, Tom, for joining us and for your leadership.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate your support.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Okay, moving on to new business. We have, as we talked about when we were talking about becoming a Purple Heart community, we have a Purple Heart proclamation. And I believe if we have someone, is there anybody, Tish, talking about this, or you want me just to give the background on it before we make our motion?
No, there's no one attending. It would just be you to provide the background and to read the proclamation.
Very good. All right, back in September of 2021, we approved becoming a Purple Heart community. And August 7th is the nationally recognized Purple Heart Day, where Purple Heart flags will be displayed at the American Town Hall. And then the Purple Heart signs, which there are 6 of them, have been ordered and placed at each of the entrances to the community. We have one living Purple Heart veteran, Richard F. Gibbons. Army Captain Gibbons is a Vietnam veteran who served from 1965 to 1969 and was released to the United States Army Reserve. While on active duty, he was an airborne ranger in the infantry and served as a unit commander, unit company commander. Mr. Gibbons' awards include the Parachute Badge, the Ranger Tab, the National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal, the Army Commendation Medal with Valor, the Air Medal, the Combat Infantry Band, the Purple Heart, the Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal, the Overseas Bar, the Silver Star, and the Bronze Star Medal. The Purple Heart Proclamation is the final step to recognizing Westwood as a Purple Heart community, and a copy of the proclamation is included as an attachment to the meeting packet. And I will read that proclamation. Whereas the people of Westwood, Mass, have a great admiration and the utmost gratitude for all citizens of our community who have selflessly served in the armed forces that have been vital to maintaining the freedom and the way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas citizens of our community have been killed in action while serving in the armed forces and have been posthumously awarded the Purple Heart for their ultimate sacrifice. Also, whereas citizens of our community have been awarded the Purple Heart for their bodily sacrifice of being wounded by the hand of the enemy while engaged in combat. And whereas The Purple Heart is the oldest American military decoration and was created as the badge of military merit, made of purple cloth in the shape of a heart with the word merit sewn upon it on August 7th, 1782 in Newburgh, New York by General George Washington. Then reestablished as the Purple Heart on February 22nd, 1932 by General Douglas MacArthur. And whereas the heritage it represents is sacred to those who know the price paid to wear the Purple Heart, and whereas August 7th is nationally recognized as Purple Heart Day, now therefore be it proclaimed, we, the Select Board of Westwood, hereby proclaim Westwood, Massachusetts, a Purple Heart community, honoring the service and sacrifice from those from our community who were awarded the Purple Heart while serving in our nation's wars. And be it also proclaimed that Westwood, Massachusetts will recognize August 7th annually as Purple Heart Day and urge our citizens and organizations to display the American flag as well as other public expressions of recognition and appreciation of our Purple Heart recipients. So can I get a motion?
Yes, Rob, and I'll say that as my grandfather having earned a Purple Heart, I'm happy to read this proclamation. That the Select Board approved the Purple Heart Proclamation for Westwood to be recognized as a Purple Heart community.
I second that.
Okay. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. And that is passed. Okay. We have a special counsel recommendation regarding the Charter Review Committee. And so we are reviewing the Charter Review Committee recommendation, which is supported by Town Council to appoint Attorney Lauren Goldberg as special counsel for the Charter Review Committee. Pat, would you like to give us any further information on that as background?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman, and I'll try and be brief. Lauren Goldberg worked on the last Charter Committee, and she was instrumental in facilitating some of the positive change that came through that. This is right in her wheelhouse. She's done this for a number of communities. She's probably the foremost expert on town charters in the Commonwealth, and I don't think you could get a better person to work with us on these issues. And I highly recommend that you appoint her special counsel to the Charter Commission.
Do I have any questions from my two Legal Eagle Select Board counterparts?
No, I happen to know Lauren. I think she's more than competent to help assist in this. So I'm happy to make the recommendation.
I would just say I recall working with Attorney Goldberg when she came before FinCom on the last charter, and she was extremely helpful.
Excellent.
So I move to accept the recommendation to appoint Attorney Lauren Goldberg as special legal counsel for the Charter Review Committee and for the town to enter into a contract with Ms. Goldberg or her firm.
I second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you, Pat, for that background. And is there anything that we will need to sign for that?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Okay. All right. Next up is discussion. As we head into a future without our beloved Pam Dukeman, who has served as the town's director of finance for so long, it may be a good time for us to look to reestablish a long-range financial planning committee to help advise the select board on issues related to some of these long-range planning items. We had a long-range planning committee in 2003, and it was dissolved in 2019. Michael, can you just hit mute?
Sorry.
That's okay. It was dissolved in 2019. Now, the original purpose of the committee was to focus on long-term financial issues, such as 5-year projections of revenue and expenditures, reserve accounts, capital budget and planning policy, debt management, health insurance and benefit costs. You hear Pam refer to them as sort of OPEB. Our financial policies, which Pam has highlighted recently, are really sound and part of why we get our AAA rating from Standard & Poor's. And then looking at things like impact of residential commercial tax rates and the other post-employment benefits such as other than pensions. Now, the original committee was comprised of representatives from a number of boards and committees throughout the town. There was a representative from the select board. There was a representative from the school committee, from the Office of Economic and Development, from FinCom, from the planning board, the Board of Assessors, the tax collector and town treasurer were both involved, the town administration, the school administration, and then there were 2 at-large community representatives. So given that we will be having someone new coming into that role, it may be something that, and we have a lot of things that get talked about in terms of capital needs and how are we going to do things in the future. And we talk about things that may at times feel like they're competing for limited resources. And this would be an opportunity for us to be able to give a little bit more visibility and to those conversations about the things that are competing for those limited resources, and also where some of that new growth might come from. So that I just wanted to open up a discussion for us to be able to consider reestablishing that long-range financial planning committee. And so just wanted to put that out there for the 3 of us to discuss. So Michael, do you have comments?
Yes, now that I can talk to, and I'm actually, not talking to anyone else. Yes, I was one of the, served on one of the last long-range financial planning, and I think it's a great idea. I know we're going through some transition in town with Pam retiring and human resources retiring. It's also a good time to get everybody at the table to discuss, where we see our town moving in the next couple of years and where the financial resources should be diverted. And it's, it's always a lively conversation, as I'm sure Mr. Hearn would tell you, because obviously we have priorities, and the question is, what does the town really see the next big priority is, and where should our resources go? So I think it's a great idea. I suppose the only bad news for you, Rob, is that generally the chair of the select board serves as the chair of the long range financial planning committee. So I'm happy to establish it and we'll vote that way. But I just want you to know it's going to be on your plate.
That's quite all right. It's a plan the work the plan type of thing. Mary Ann, how about you?
I'm absolutely in favor of this. I think that we need to have that conversation as a community in terms of the priorities. I also hope that we can look at the financial policies themselves. I know they were last updated in 2014. And to your earlier point, I think it would be very helpful to have Pam with us to look at those policies and update them if necessary.
Great. Okay, well, I think we should then have a proposed action. Chris, do we want to take any action on this tonight, or is this something now that we know we probably should revisit it and figure out the best way to constitute it going forward?
That's what I would recommend, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Well, thank you both for the discussion. Does that require any community conversation? No,
well,
right?
I think the board, Mr. Chair, I think the board would like to, I would encourage the board to have some type of community discussion also with different boards within the community itself.
Okay. Well, we will start to collect the right folks and have that conversation. Okay, that is it for new business. So now we go on to old business, and we need to sort of have our own appointments to, as you heard when we talked about Michael, all the various things that he served on last year as chair, and then divvy up the many different opportunities to serve in a variety of committees across the community and the wider area at large. So let's talk about the different committees that we typically serve on. Believe it is tradition that the chair serve on the aid to the elderly and infirm. Is that true?
It's not always true, Rob, but, you know, I've been on for probably the last 6 years. I think since Mr. Ahern left, I have served on that. But if you'd like to, I'm more than happy to let you serve on that as well. So we all serve on the local emergency planning committee. And I have had the 2 Norfolk County seats for the last, I would say, 4 years. So generally, the only ones that really change the chair of the school building committee, and probably the lien process board, if it ever comes across your desk, which I think has only come across maybe the select board 3 or 4 times in the last 8 years. So those are the only 2 that I think are served by the chair, but you're welcome to do, you know, you're the chair, so you get to decide.
Well, then, would you be willing to continue in your capacity on the 4 that you currently serve on?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Now, Town Council Ahern, do we need to vote on these individually, or should we line up the slate and do it as a single vote?
You should line up the slate and do it as a single vote.
Okay.
It's really what you're interested in serving on. The only other time somebody generally gets appointed is if they miss a meeting, in my experience.
Okay. Then I will take the local emergency planning, as we all do. I am currently on the Westwood Environmental Action Committee, WEAC, and I would be interested in continuing that. And as Michael just alluded to, I am already beginning the process with the school building committee. So happy to take that, which leaves sort of 3 different boards. The Housing Partnership for Fair Housing. Mary Ann, would you be interested in taking that?
I'd be happy to.
Michael, you said that the lien process board is one that typically goes to the chair?
It has, but it doesn't have to be. I know at one point, Mr. Hickey deferred as the chair to someone else. So you can do that. It is open to whoever, you know, whoever wants to sit.
Would either of you be interested in sitting on that?
I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you. And I think that covers everything, right? Because we have the local emergency planning committee as each of us. So
correct. Yes.
Excellent. So can we get a motion to appoint the select board members to the various boards and committees as we've just discussed?
Sure. I will move that the board appoint the select board members to Michael Walsh to serve on the Aid to the Elderly Infirm, the Norfolk County Advisory Board, the Norfolk County Selectmen Association, and the Local Emergency Planning Committee. Chairman Gotti to serve on the Local Emergency Planning Committee, the Westwood Environmental Action Committee, and on the School Building Committee. And Mary Ann LeBlanc Cummings to serve on the Housing Partnership Fair Housing Committee, the Lien Processing Board, as well as the Local Emergency Planning Committee.
I second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings.
Aye.
Mr. Walsh.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, if it's feasible, I'd also like to serve as a liaison to the Commission on Disability, if that would be of service.
That would certainly be welcome and of service. Is there a reason, Chris or Pat, that is not one of the ones listed here?
No, there's no reason why it's not listed.
Yeah, I just think that there has been a liaison, but if Mary Ann wants to serve, I'm sure that no one is going to object.
Yeah.
Do we need
to vote on that?
Do we need to amend that vote at all?
To make it official.
Okay. I vote that Ms. Mary Ann LeBlanc Cummings serve as executive liaison to the Disability Commission.
I second that.
And roll call, but Pat, just let me make sure, is that acceptable that Mary Ann seconds that vote?
By necessity, yes.
Okay, then let's get a roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you, Mary Ann, for serving on that very important committee.
Thank you.
Next up, we have appointments and reappointments of boards and committees. And I believe we have one appointment, And that is a request from the town administrator, assistant town administrator and finance director to appoint Elaine Dorena to the Aid to the Elderly and Infirm Committee. Pam, I believe I saw you here. Do you have anything you'd like to say about this?
Yes, Elaine is our new elected collector, and the collector has participated in that committee. So we would ask that you appoint her. We are looking to have that committee meet before the end of the fiscal year and have one of their assignments be to talk about how else might we expand membership so that when you start to reappoint to that board for FY23, we might ask you to appoint some additional people onto that committee. But Elaine is in place now. It would be great to have her come on board before the end of the fiscal year.
Any questions from my colleagues?
Nope.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the select board appoint Elaine Dorena as a member of the Aid to the Elderly and Infirm Committee for the term to expire on June 30th, 2023.
Second that.
Okay, roll call. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Elaine. Thank you, Pam. Okay, next up is an update on Hale. And for this, I'm going to turn this over to Chris Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as the board's aware, we have a Hale Task Force that's appointed by the town administrator, and the Hale Task Force was originally appointed back in 2019 and working on a number of matters before them. One thing, just as a little reminder, Hale is asking both the towns of Westwood and Dover to participate in a conservation restriction on the property. And Westwood would consider or consist of approximately 550 acres. There are different levels of a conservation restriction, and that's some of the things that we're going to be working out. But the task force has been meeting, and one of the things that the task force would like to do is to hold a public meeting on Tuesday, June 14th. It will be a virtual meeting, whereas a representation from the task force will be making a presentation as well as representation from Hale. And the task force is looking for comments from the public regarding what they hear. So there's a number of things that are being asked. One is as far as a conservation restriction. And as the board knows, one of the other key factors that is being asked from Hale is a dollar amount for that conservation restriction. And that's one of the things that the board has asked me to negotiate with Hale. I've had conversations with Eric Arnold, their executive director. We've had a meeting even as late as last week, and we will continue to meet as we move forward. But this meeting is really an opportunity to provide the task force and representation from Hale for those residents who have been following this and are aware of this, a refresher, and those who may not, an opportunity to provide some information on what's being asked for, a little bit of information regarding the Hale grounds and the property, and what we're looking to accomplish, or at least what Hale is asking us to accomplish with that conservation restriction. The conservation restriction is a legally enforceable agreement which purpose is to ensure permanent protection of the land while allowing limited uses consistent with the protection of the land of conservation values. Translate to if the conservation restriction were in place, then future development on that land would be limited to certain uses by Hale as their education piece. But there would not be any future development, whether it's commercial or residential property, on the Hale land in Westwood. Our counterparts in Dover are continuing to meet. They're continuing to meet with representation from Hale as they're looking to move something forward to a future, either a fall or a spring town meeting. That has not been confirmed to which one Dover will be doing. But we are looking to bring a recommendation to the select board, looking to have a meeting again on June 14th at 6 o'clock. It's a virtual meeting. One of the key reasons why we've selected that day is because we want to make sure we provide, even if it's a virtual meeting, residents to participate in that, because as you all know, the following week school's out, and once school's out, there may be fewer residents available to participate in certain meetings. So we're trying to have that meeting prior to school being out, and we will continue to gather that information, meet, and then also provide updates to the board.
Now, Chris, do you envision subsequent meetings to that to allow for any additional input, or will there be someone there from Hale sort of presenting any background on the conservation restriction and sort of what has led to this? What is the sort of construct of that meeting looking like in your mind?
So we will have a representative from the task force provide an overview similar to what was provided to the board earlier. And also we'll have representation from Hale providing some information regarding the conservation restriction and some of the different levels of conservation restriction, and to make sure that people understand that the Hale land that's used for Hale Inc. would still be allowed to have certain construction on it or buildings, even with the conservation restriction, but it has to be for the Hale purpose. I think the key point that we really want to emphasize to the residents is development, future development, whether it's a commercial property or for residential property, that's where the conservation restriction will provide the protection as we move forward.
Questions from Michael, Mary Ann? Okay, well, thank you, Chris. And, you know, we really hope that there's a good turnout for these community conversations. So again, Chris, remind me, June 14th at
6 p.m.
6 p.m. It will be held virtually. Okay. So,
Mr. Chair, if I can just say, I just would like to add that the members of the task force have really been working hard in trying to provide the information and also guidance for me as we're working with Hale, but also being great stewards of the community, looking at the needs, the desires, and certainly the future protection of that open space.
now, Chris, if I remember, the recently outgoing member, Mr. Hickey, was serving as the ex officio on that task force. Do we need to appoint a replacement for him for the ongoing conversations?
We should, yes.
Okay. Mary Ann, you have actually served on that committee as a private citizen. Would you be interested in continuing in that capacity as an ex officio representative from the select board?
I'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay. So Michael, let's make a motion to appoint Mary Ann to the Hale Task Force.
One moment, Chris.
Yes.
I believe the Hale Task Force is appointed by the town
It's supported
administrator.
by me, it's not by the board.
Oh, that's right.
So-
Okay. Thank you,
so-
Fish. Appreciate you.
So, Mary Ann, I'll give you a call.
You'll get your
I'll be
appointment.
wondering.
Okay, next up under old business is just a transfer of funds to Westwood Media Center. As you know, we regularly collect funds from Comcast and Verizon for the contracts that we have for PEG access funding to fund Westwood Media Center, who has been invaluable throughout the pandemic and really over, the course of time, in helping bring these meetings to the public and so much more. So we have specific payment from Comcast in there.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
You may.
I think Ms. LeBlanc has a point she'd like to make.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from this matter.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Ahern. So we have funds that are per the various agreements from both Comcast and Verizon that we transfer to Westwood Media Center within 30 days of receipt. And so we have recently received from Comcast $44,791.21 and another smaller amount of $4,629.85. And then from Verizon, we received $39,893.83, all of which was received on May 12th. And that is representative of an amount on Comcast of roughly 5% of its gross annual revenues, which are paid on a quarterly basis. And with Comcast, there's about 0.5% of that's issued as capital costs. And that is also made on a quarterly basis. So those are the two numbers I read previously. And then there's additional capital totaling $60,000 payable in equal payments of $6,000, which is due 90 days after the execution. I believe that has already been accounted for because I don't see that in here. And then with Verizon, we have a 4% of their gross annual revenues and a 4.5% effective. That was in 2018, 4.5% effective in June 30th, 2019. And now we are at the 5% or at parity with Comcast. So I would entertain a motion to accept and approve the transfer of these monies from Comcast and Verizon to Westwood Media Center.
I move the select board approve the transfer of $49,421.06 from Comcast, as well as $39,893.83 from Verizon, totaling $89,413.89 to the Westwood Media Center as per the license agreement and the Westwood Media Center agreements signed by the select board.
And I will second that out of necessity. Mr. Walsh.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. That money is approved to be transferred. If Chris, if you could text Mary Ann and tell her she's good to come back in.
I have. And here she is.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Next up, we just have acceptance of the minutes from the May 9th meeting. Did anyone have any questions or comments on those?
Nope.
Okay.
So I move the select board approve the minutes of the May 9th, 2022 meeting as written.
Second.
Roll call. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings.
Aye.
Mr. Walsh.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And I believe that covers our slate of agenda for this evening. Our next meeting is Monday, June 6th at 6 p.m. and that will also be conducted via Zoom. So with that.
But we will see them all before that. We'll see them on Monday, the 30th of the parade. So
that is true. That is true. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. LeBlanc Cummings.
Aye.
Mr. Walsh.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And we will see everybody on Monday.